Namaskar and welcome. We have an exciting author with us. You have heard her last time. You really liked her presentation on the first show that we had. She has written multiple authors and she has the tale of 52 leaders from the medieval history of India or the people who fought for the culture of India. So we'll discuss about her, one of those leaders. Most of that history has been hidden and purposely removed from the pages of Vedic history or Indian history for reasons known to the faith-based colonizers or people who are actually trying to occupy India. Now, this particular author, which you know, I'll shortly take her name, and this particular author's books has a tale of 52 such leaders. So we'll cover just one such leader, which she's going to speak about, and you can directly access her own website and where her books are available and get those books for yourself. So without delay, let's bring on Manoshi Sinha.
Yeah.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Aditya ji, and namaste to all the hosts and the team of Sattology. And namaste to Aditya ji. And I'd like to thank Sattology channel for inviting me to deliver a talk to speak a few words about one of our warrior ancestors.
So,
So I'm going. So I'm going to uh, speak about a 24-year-old freedom fighter. His name is Chain Singh. He was the Rajput prince of Narsingar of the Bundelkhand Malwa region of Madhya Pradesh. And this story of valor, this story of leadership is from the year 1824. So you are saying something.
yeah, the freedom fighter which you are mentioning. So for the audience, if those of you do not know, so Mahatma Gandhi was not the only freedom fighter from India. And there are some other freedom fighters which have been largely not told to the world. And so the world should know that all of you should also know that the freedom fight, India had a long history of struggle against colonial, faith-based colonialists, either they were British or Muslims. Please go ahead, Manoshi.
Yeah. So this tale of valor is taken from the book Saffron Swords, my latest book, my eighth book. This book has 52 tales of valor of our warrior ancestors from the 8th century till 1947. And the regions span from each and every corner of Bharat. And these are tales of those warriors from various walks of life, including rulers and princes, soldiers, who first offered resistance against Islamic invaders and then the British. They won battles, they fought till their last breath, and they saved their kingdoms, they saved Dharma and the motherland. So we are going to pick up one tale, as I already said. I'm going to speak about Chain Singh. So why I am starting the series of this talk on one leader, this Chain Singh, from my book, which is published by Garuda Prakashan. So we need to draw leadership lessons from this warrior. As I narrate the story, you will come across many such incidences. You will draw lessons of leadership, how he took the right decision at the right time and offered resistance against the British. He never surrendered to British supremacy, and how he administered his kingdom at a time when the British already annexed a few parts of our kingdom. It was the year 1824. And we all have been reading in our history, we all have read in our history books that in the year 1857, the revolt of 1857 was the first war of independence. But before the revolt of 1857, there have been various revolts, various rebellions against the British. Worth mentioning is the Sannyasi rebellion, which took place from 1770 to 1775 and which continued till 1820. This was one of the first rebellions against the British. It took place in various parts in the Bengal presidency, which then covered parts of Bihar, Orissa, Bengal, and I would like to just give a short brief about the Sannyasi rebellion. So during those days, the Naga sadhus and other sannyasis used to travel from across the country to Jagannath Puri. So they were annual pilgrims to Jagannath shrine. So they came across the British who interfered into their freedom, and several battles took place between the Naga sadhus, the sannyasis, and the British. The Naga sadhus, the sannyasis, they emerged victorious in several battles, and they slaughtered many Britishers to death, and they killed many of their commanders. And these victories are described by the British in their records and also in the book Anandamath by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. And Bankim Chandra Chatterjee had used the slogan Vande Mataram. And this slogan gained importance and motivated, inspired many freedom fighters from across the country to rise in rebellion against the British and save Dharma and the motherland. So, but we hardly know about the Sannyasi rebellion, one of the first wars of independence against the colonial rule. So thereafter, there were many such rebellions, and worth mentioning where the freedom struggle of the Jangal Mahal in 1788, 98 to 99, which is also known as Chuar Rebellion. Then we have the Vellore Mutiny of 1806, Barakpur Mutiny of 1824. Then we have the Santhal Rebellion of 1855 to 56. So one of the most widespread rebellions before the 1857 War of Independence was the 1824 revolt that took place first in the Saharanpur-Meerut belt, and then spread across majorly in the northern part of the country and later to the the southern regions. So I'm going to narrate once this story of Chain Singh from the 1824 revolt against the British. So when the 1824 revolt against the British gained momentum in the Saharanpur-Meerut belt, wherein a fierce battle between the British and the Gurjars took place at Dehradun area, in the Roorkee Dehradun area. And after this battle, the British hanged many hundreds of freedom fighters to death. They hanged them in front of the female family members to death. And according to British records, around 700 of the freedom fighters were hanged to death. Few of these trees are still there. And we can, if we visit those places, we can still view the trees where our warrior ancestors were hanged by the British. So it was during this period, the Kuwar, the Prince of Narsingar, Chain Singh, he held a meeting with the neighboring kingdoms in his court, and they were strategizing to start a similar revolt started by the freedom fighters in the Saharanpur-Meerut region. So Narsingar, he was the Prince of Narsingar. Narsingar is a princely state located near Bhopal. And Chain Singh draws his descendancy from Raja Bhoj, a Paramara Rajput ruler who founded Bhopal. So his ancestors have been ruling Narsingar state, Narsingar kingdom since the 17th century. So during this time, in the year 1824, his Chain Singh's father, Rawat Sobhak Singh, he was bedridden, he fell ill. So most of the administrative affairs were then undertaken by Chain Singh and his elder brother. So even Chain Singh took the lead in most of the decisions of the kingdom. So he was then only 24 years old. So during this time, while the meeting was held between the neighboring kingdoms and Chain Singh, two of the ministers, what they did, first the chief minister of Narsingar. His name is Anandram Bakshi. So he leaked the information, the development, the strategy that they have been planning to revolt against the British. So Anandram Bakshi, the chief minister of Narsingar in 1824 of the Narsingar kingdom, he leaked the information to the British. And poor Chain Singh was very smart. He used to keep spies so that he knew who the traitors were in his kingdom. Even today, there is no doubt of traitors in our country. It is because of thousands of the traitors in this country that India had been under foreign rule for almost 1300 years of under foreign, like the foreigners. Time and again they came, they looted our country, they plundered our kingdoms, they destroyed thousands of our temples, they took away our women as sex slaves, they committed genocide of millions of Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists. And after Muhammad Ghori, they started ruling parts of our country, one after the another, one dynasty after the other. And their ruling was possible only because of a handful of traitors who took their part, who sided with them instead of siding with their own fellow countrymen. So we have, there's one of the traitors, as I have mentioned, Anandram Bakshi. He leaked the info to the British, and somehow Chain Singh, who had kept spies in his kingdom, somehow came to know about this. So what did Chain Singh do? He immediately ordered execution of Anandram Bakshi. His father interfered and he asked Chain Singh to be merciful to the chief minister, because the minister had been serving that kingdom since many years. And going by that, the father requested the son to pardon him once. But Chain Singh did not leave any scope for further traitorhood. He immediately ordered his execution, and Anandram Bakshi was executed. So there were more meetings with neighboring kingdoms, and then another minister, Rupram Bohra, he also sided with the British. He also leaked important information pertaining to the strategy of a possible revolt against the British to the British. And somehow Chain Singh also came to know about Rupram. So immediately he again ordered execution of that minister. In this case also, most of his courtiers and even his father interfered, and they said he should pardon him and give him one more chance, so that in the future he would not repeat the mistake. Then what did Chain Singh say? He said there is no place for traitors in his kingdom, and if he came any more traitors, even from his own bloodline, he would kill them all. So he executed Rupram Bohra. So the two ministers were executed. So relatives of those two ministers and few people who supported those two ministers, they approached the British for help. They wanted British help to. They wanted the British to interfere into the affairs of the kingdom of Narsingar, and they wanted the British to invade the Narsingar territory. So British during those times, they were always looking for opportunities to strike, to interfere into the affairs of the kingdom of the Indian rulers, the princely states. And the British then, because now they have a handful of supporters from the Narsingar kingdom, so the British at the nearest British cantonment was at Sehore, and the in charge, the commander of that unit was Maddock. So he asked the ruler of Narsingar for a meeting. So initially the ruler of Narsingar agreed, but as he was bedridden and he was ill, he sent his son Chain Singh for the meeting. Though they knew that the meeting was possible because the people from his own kingdom, the relatives of those two ministers who were executed and their supporters, they only sided with the British. But because they wanted a mutual understanding of, they wanted to come to certain terms and conditions, so he agreed. Chain Singh agreed. And the first meeting took place in not in Sehor, in another place. And in the meeting, the British kept three conditions in front of Chain Singh. The first condition was that Chain Singh should not stay further in the kingdom of Narsingar. He should leave Narsingar if he wanted to save his life. Number two, during those periods, Narsingar was a center of opium cultivation. And the farmers there used to earn a lot of revenue through the opium yields. And they used to sell the opium to neighboring kingdoms. And the traders from the neighboring kingdoms used to come and buy opium from those farmers at good prices. Then the British laid the second condition that the opium cultivated in the kingdom of Narsingar should be sold only to the British. No other traders or no other people or individual would be allowed to buy the produce, the opium produce. And third point, the third condition was that the British should be given the rights to rule Narsingar for 3 years. So none of the three conditions Chain Singh, poor Chain Singh did not like any of the three conditions. He completely rejected the conditions and he left for Narsingar. Then the British again sent a messenger and they suggested that they should sit for another meeting. And the British said that this time they would be lenient and they would not include those terms and conditions that they had included in the first meet. And Chain Singh agreed. But this time, Chain Singh was suspicious because during the first meeting, it was just a casual meet and he did not take his men along with him. And for the second meeting, Chain Singh was suspicious and he thought of a possible fight with the British. So he took along with him 50 soldiers, 50 Rajput soldiers. And he also took along his pet dog, Sheru. So we have read in history, we have read about Chetak for Maharana Pratap, who in the Battle of Haldigati saved his life. So we have been taught a false narrative that Rana Pratap fled from the battlefield and like a cow, but he did not run away. Had he run away, then he would not have been able to save his kingdom. It was a strategy. During those early days, according to rules of Dharma in warfare, if a particular ruler or a commander felt that he should retreat from the battlefield so that he could come back with renewed forces, then he should leave. And that's not Kayartha. No. That's not cowardice. So Maharana Pratap could...
Even the British used a lot of tactical retreats, they used to call it.
Yes. So, and Maharana Pratap retreated from the battlefield, from the Battle of Haldigati, and the only animal who could facilitate it was Chetak. And Chetak attained martyrdom after he took his master to a safe place. So Chetak is immortal. And there is another animal of Maharana Pratap. Many of us do not know about him. He is Ram Prasad. He was an elephant. And he showed, Ram Prasad the elephant showed great valor in the battlefield, the Battle of Haldigati. So during the battle, Akbar's forces, they noticed that the elephant was so strong and it was so loyal. He was so loyal to the Rajput army, to his master. And they somehow caught Ram Prasad and took him to the court of Akbar. And Akbar wanted to own the elephant after listening to its story of valor in the battlefield. What did Akbar do? He changed Ram Prasad's name to Pir Prasad. He gave a Muslim name to the elephant. And he ordered his men to feed the best food, the best elephant's food. And the elephant was kept with royalty. But the elephant was, Ram Prasad was so loyal to his master Maharana Pratap that he stayed in hunger. He did not take even water, not a single bit of food. And after 18 days of hunger, the elephant died. So these are stories of loyalty, even of animals, of our warrior ancestors. So here we are speaking about a pet dog, Sheru. He was the pet dog of poor Chain Singh. So Chain Singh took along Sheru with him for the meeting. So 50 soldiers and Sheru and Chain Singh, they reached Sehor cantonment where the British army, they were all armed and they were waiting for the meeting. So Maddock was there, seated in a chair, and there was a table in front of him. And in front of the table, there stood Chain Singh with his pet dog and a few of his soldiers, because the room could not accommodate all of his soldiers. So a few of his soldiers were there along with him. So the Maddock was taken aback when he saw Chain Singh, because he saw Chain Singh's waist carrying 2 swords. Then Maddock asked Chain Singh, "Why do you, hey prince, why do you carry 2 swords? What is the purpose behind carrying 2 swords? Will you please explain me first?" Then what did Chain Singh reply? Without any hesitation, instantly he replied, "This sword," he pointed his finger to one sword hanging from his waist, and he said, "This sword is meant to cut the heads of those traitors in our kingdom who go against our motherland." Then Maddock was awestruck and he said, "Okay, then what is that second sword for?" Then immediately Chain Singh said, "This second sword is to cut the heads of the Britishers who dare to interfere into the affairs of our kingdom, into the affairs of Narsingha." The Maddock did not expect such a reply. And he felt insulted. So he immediately said, "Okay, please show me the sword that you are carrying to execute the traitors of your kingdom." Immediately, Chain Singh took out the sword and gave it to Maddock. Then Maddock looked at the sword and he was looking for an opportunity to strike the sword at Chain Singh. But Chain Singh fixed his eyes at the sword so that even a glimpse of his eye would let Maddock strike him. So he was very careful and cautious. Then when Maddock saw no opportunity to strike at Chain Singh, he asked, "Will you please give me the second sword that is meant to cut the heads of the Britishers who interfere into the affairs of our kingdom?" What did Chain Singh say? Immediately Chain Singh said, "A warrior's waist is never kept empty." A Rajput warrior's waist and a warrior in India, a warrior's waist is never kept empty. That sword will always adorn my waist, so I cannot give you that. When he got this reply, Maddock immediately stood up and he was about to strike with that sword that he has to Chain Singh. At that very instant, Sheru, he immediately jumped at Maddock. Sheru, the pet dog. So Chain Singh did not act. It was Sheru who immediately attacked Maddock. So Maddock fell down and the sword fell from his hands. And the Sheru was after him. So he immediately got up from there and he rushed outside and ran away from that place, immediately alerting his soldiers to fight against, alerting his British soldiers to fight against, to attack the Rajput soldiers, to attack Chain Singh and his group of 50 soldiers. So as soon as the British soldiers stationed there, who were there in hundreds, they started attacking Chain Singh and his army and a small troop of 50 soldiers. And then a fierce battle took place between the British and Chain Singh and his troops. And during this fight, it continued for several hours. Chain Singh used both his swords to slaughter the Britishers. and they offered resistance. All the 50 Rajput soldiers, they offered resistance, and uh, they reached the Sehor Park located nearby while fighting. And in a few hours, all of the 50 soldiers who accompanied Kuwar Chain Singh were all martyred. And at the end, even Chain Singh attained martyrdom. So before attaining martyrdom, Chain Singh and his 50 soldiers were able to kill 24 Britishers. And even Sheru, he was able to wound many British soldiers before attaining martyrdom. So this is the story of valor of Kuwar Chain Singh. So here we can draw many leadership lessons. He did not agree to the advice of his father when the king, when he asked him to pardon the traitor, and he himself took the lead in attending the first meet, and he took the leadership role in not agreeing to the terms and conditions set by the British in the first meeting. And in the second meeting, he took along with him 50 soldiers, he took along with him his pet dog, and he was alert. And the way he replied to Maddox, that also shows us his leadership qualities. So we can draw a lot many lessons from Kuwar Chain Singh. Today we have the Sehor Park is like a pilgrimage spot for us Indians, and there are statues of Kuwar Chain Singh and a few of the martyred soldiers in the park. And visiting Sehor Park is like a pilgrimage for all of us. So this is the story of Kuwar Chain Singh.
It's so surprising that the British Christian, I would call them the British mission, was under the Church of England. So British Christian missionaries, or they all, everything had a religious purpose of attacking India, destroying India
Yes,
and using it for themselves. Now they attacked India. Indians were larger in numbers, but still the armies were smaller as compared to British for at that particular incident site. In the British
hmm,
Empire history, it is said no more than 100,000 British soldiers ever ruled India.
yes,
And most of them were 100 top generals of the British Army. The atrocities that they committed against the natives and the natives' defense was considered as terrorism by these colonialists. In
yes,
fact, they were the ones who occupied India and terrorized Indians and killed them. So this is what happens in the colonial setup. When they come, they defang it. First of all, they want to remove all the weapons from the local society. When there are no
hmm,
weapons, nobody can defend.
yes,
Tomorrow, in just 2 days, we have American Independence Day, July 4th, from the British.
hmm, okay,
And it's ironical that both countries, America and India, got independence from British. They did the same thing in the US. There's so many atrocities by the British soldiers against Americans. And the first thing that they did was remove the weapons. And so July 4th is a time. So in American Constitution, uh, there is a right given to all the people living in America to own weapons against the
hmm.
government. If the government turns rogue, so the citizens can defend themselves against the police and against the government. So
That's a very great initiative. But in India, only the Nihangs and a particular counted few sections of the society are allowed to carry weapons. And that was according to an act signed by the British. And that
exactly.
particular act is still followed till today. Why should India follow an act
By
started
the
by the
British.
British?
Yeah, exactly. So India should make it, if they really want to become strong, they to make their citizens stronger, and the citizens have to act in larger groups to against any anti-social forces. Like just for example, when you read the news in India, the mostly it appears from the news that most of the criminals and terrorists have free weapons. Like they get access to a lot of weapons, but the civilians have no weapons to protect themselves. And by the time they call the police is so corrupt in India. Like what happened in Palghar, the police handed over the sadhus to the criminals. They get them killed. So the police in India is so corrupt, and practically from the American point of view, it's a question mark on the big police in India. So
Yeah, it is
if
not all the police officers are corrupt. So there are a few incidences of such corruption amongst the police as well, and a major section of the police officers are like they are duty bound, but again they are restricted to certain terms and conditions. I think they are not allowed to work freely.
I totally agree with you. My point was that we don't know
Mm.
who is not corrupt.
Yes,
Ordinary
yes,
people don't know who is not corrupt.
yes,
So,
yes,
they may meet a police, they may trust them. What happened to those sadhus? They trusted the police.
yes, yes, yes. That is
So when you
yes,
don't know who is corrupt, then the whole society, the whole organization looks corrupt.
yes, yes. The whole
And
organization is to be blamed. Yeah.
exactly. Same thing in the US also. It doesn't, I'm not trying to blame India for that. In the US also, only 10% officers may be corrupt or maybe racist in some ways. But the rest of the police is very good here. Rest of the, I have interacted with a lot of friends, but we don't know who is the 10%.
That
Same
is
is
true.
with the is a Islamic thing also, because the even though 5% of them may be the haters, big time haters, but
Hmm.
we don't know who is that 5%. So the
Yes, yes.
entire community is branded as a terrorist. So for Indians, and this is a very good story and very good points you made. One thing really comes to my mind is that the natives have to organize more strongly for any foreign element to occupy them again, ever again in India. What is happening in Indo-China border and other areas where the Indian army is showing the strength. But let me tell you about something about the Indo-China thing is, despite all the conflict which is going on since 1959, is when the Chinese occupied Tibet, till date, India has not put boats in the lakes over there. Only very old types of boats which Chinese regularly break. So what I mean to say is that we have to learn from these lessons, and my eyes are open with Kumar Chain Singh. I think I'm. If you have his picture, send it out. We'll send it out as part of this video.
Yes, his statue at Sehor is there.
Yeah,
So I'll
just
send a picture of the statue. Yeah,
statue.
but his real pic is not there.
It's so many
But
questions.
there will be upcoming volumes of Saturn Swords. So the upcoming volumes will have illustrations of the warrior ancestors.
Oh,
So
wonderful,
based on their
wonderful.
description.
Wonderful. I think we need to work to make these leaders popular, and also viewers. These books are in English. Some of you are asking me questions. These books are in English, and the mainstream academic leftist institutions will not talk about it. You know why? The reason is they want to hide the information about the valor of the Indian native resistance to them. In America, and I'll draw a comparison to you, the Native American history is practically absent. People who were conquered are nobody knows about them. The Kumayos, the Siru clowns, the clans are not available. No history information is available. But India has preserved that because the natives are the main people in India. In America, natives are long forgotten, and we have to revive that. This is a disservice to the American population to ignore them. Similarly, in India, is a disservice to ignore these great leaders. So many.
Purposefully, they are ignored. Purposefully, they are ignored. So since the last 70 plus years, we have been reading only about tales of defeats of our warrior ancestors. We have been projected as losers and defeated. And so most of the youth today, they don't want to remember the last 1000 years because we have been taught that way. But in reality, it is a completely opposite picture. There have been many thousands of tales of resistance offered by the native warriors of the soil over a period of 1300 years. And these stories of valor are deliberately hidden in our history books, textbooks. So we are bound to lose the pride. We don't feel proud of our past 1300 years, of our warrior ancestors in the past 1300 years. So because we have read only about the glories of the invaders, about the Islamic invaders and about the British. So we all know who Muhammad Ghori is. We all know who Qutbuddin Aibak is, who Babar is, who Aurangzeb is, who Lord Dalhousie is, who Lord Karjan is. We know about the Britishers and the Islamic invaders who ruled us, who plundered our country, who looted our wealth, who committed genocides. But we know nothing about our warrior ancestors, and all this is because our history is biased.
No, absolutely right. And see, the thing is, the colonizers write the history. One question is being asked by one of the students is that why were British larger in numbers than the natives? Why only 50 soldiers were defending against hundreds?
Because they did not expect that a war was to take place. The 50 soldiers who accompanied poor Chain Singh, and even Chain Singh himself, he just guessed that an altercation might happen, but he did not expect that the war against the British might take place. Because when a war is to happen, an earlier intimidation takes place that this war will take place in this particular battlefield, in this particular site, and the war takes place. But it happened all of a sudden. So if poor Chain Singh had not taken the 50 soldiers, if he had gone alone, or if he had taken only 2 or 3 soldiers, then just imagine the consequences.
No, actually, in the
And the
history,
Britishers, most of the we have a history of the Britishers being fewer in number compared to the Indians employed by the British as soldiers. And those Indians, they were loyal to the British and they were against their own countrymen. Like in the revolt of 1857, we have many such examples wherein the soldiers employed by Indian soldiers employed by the British, they were loyal to the Britishers and they killed their own countrymen. Just take the example of Jallianwala Bagh massacre. General Dyer, he was led by many Indian soldiers, and he ordered, and the Indian soldiers themselves, they opened fire at the Indians, their own fellow countrymen. So had all of these Indians taken the sides of their own fellow countrymen and their own fellow brethren, then maybe the British would not have been able to rule for even 10 or 20 years. They would have been ousted at the initial stage itself. But then there was the lack of unity during that time. And maybe because of some 1,000 years of foreign rule by Islamic invaders in parts of the country, most of this, the Indians then the thought like they should, when they got an opportunity to work under the British, they easily accepted that. But just imagine if all of these soldiers employed by the British had they revolted, then the colonial rule would have ended long time back. But they did realize, a few of them realized in 1857, and after the Azad Hind Fauj prisoners were tried in Red Fort, which is famous as the Red Fort trials. The INA soldiers, the Azad Hind Fauj soldiers were tried in Red Fort. Then the Indian soldiers in thousands of numbers, more than 50,000 Indian soldiers in the Navy and the armed forces, they revolted against their own masters, the Britishers. And that was the reason that the British decided to leave India. It was not because of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi that they left India. And Clement Attlee, the then British PM, he had openly told Chakraborty somewhere in the some few years after independence, that Gandhi's role in the Indian freedom struggle was minimal. And the main reason behind them leaving the country was because thousands of Indian soldiers employed by the British, they revolted. And the revolt was because of the Red Fort trials, because of the INA soldiers being tried by the British. They were imprisoned and they were sentenced to death. But seeing the revolts arising across the country, they let them free.
So,
So that was a late realization.
yeah. No, actually, if you
But
look at
it did happen for the good.
the if you look at the history, whether Islamic or British Christian, it's something in their faith system that we come from a dharmic background, completely opposite of Abrahamic. So
Mhm.
in dharmic culture, the trust in the truthfulness, these are emphasized. But in
Mhm.
Abrahamic culture, those are not there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they are more cruel to even themselves. If you look at British royalty, what they did to commoners in Britain, it's worse situation. Worse situation. They have no empathy, no. There is no kindness, nothing. It's like a brutality, barbaric. So that's why we call them Yavana also in the Sanskrit literature. They're very
Mhm.
barbaric. So Indians are too gullible for them, gullible.
Yeah.
Even then and even now. Like what Chinese
Yes.
do to India, it's a barbarism versus dharma. So
Yes.
in that case, we have to be as barbaric with them as they are to us. Then only they understand. And
Because rules of dharma doesn't apply to only one party. If the
correct.
opposite party doesn't follow the rules of dharma followed by the Indians, then the Indians should realize that they should follow the same barbarism followed by this Islamic rulers and the British during those times, and now China and future any possible future threats by
Even
nations.
with the Muslims, they always come in a large group. And if a Hindu tries to show bravery as one man, again he'll get defeated. So it has to be numbers to numbers and man to man. It has to be mapped like that equally or more. Hindus
Yes,
have to be so dharma has to present itself in a much stronger way. But thank you very much for your time today. And there are a lot of questions here, almost 300 questions here. I cannot ask everyone. I have I have enabled just 2 or 3 questions. I put it across. This video is going to go live in another 1 week because you already watched it live once, and then you can post your questions there, and Manoshi ji will herself
I'll
reply to
reply.
that.
I shall reply.
And I will also post the link of a book, Saffron Swords, so you all can watch it. And if you have any questions, you can ask her directly. So I'll publish that. These are not books. Are they on Amazon also?
Yeah, and the book Saffron Swords is available on Amazon, but uh, not internationally. It is available in India. But if you approach Garuda Prakashan, I will once this video is uploaded, I will post the WhatsApp number and the email ID. So where one can send the orders, and Garuda Prakashan, the publisher, they ship to all international destinations.
So please order them once this video is published. And thank you very much, all of you, for listening. And thank you very much, Manoshi ji, for coming. We'll continue this session. And then this session was one of the best sessions I had in a couple of weeks, where we actually spoke about a person who was an ancestor and a warrior. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.